a fairly average American teenager. I'm mixed race, I've lived in a handful of different places, I've been to many different schools, and I've had lots of different experiences. For example, in Seattle, I learned that not everyone drinks coffee all the time. In Hawaii, I learned that not everyone wears a coconut bra and hula skirt everywhere. And in Texas, I have come to learn that not everyone rides their horses. All jokes aside, in these different places, and going to over 7 different schools, I've learned many things. In Seattle, I learned what professional life looked like. I lived in the city, and I learned what business and all that had to do with. In Hawaii, because Hawaii isn't the most rich state, families have to depend on one another to get by. And I learned what a community was, and I learned what the love and respect people could have with each other. And in Texas, I've learned about the competition. I've learned how hard it is to get ahead on the sports field or in the classroom because Houston is such a talent-saturated area. Now, as I was growing up and becoming a teenager, I began to wonder this one thing, and it was, why do I wake up every morning? And this wasn't a question from depression. No, this was a question that stemmed from my curiosity and my motivation. See, I love life, and I love the challenges life's given me. I love conquering those things. And I know that at some point in my life, my story will impact someone in a positive manner. But even knowing these two things, the question remained. And as I grew into high school and I figured that I want to go play baseball in college and go into some sort of international business, that question sort of morphed into, is it all worth it? Is it worth staying late after practice? Is it worth staying up late and waking up early? Is it worth playing a baseball game, running home, giving a TED Talk, and then going to play a championship game? and all these things sort of gave me this motivation to this question. Now, when I was young, my mom used to tell me every day, you were strong and powerful, and whenever you walk into a room, everyone's going to want to talk to you. So naturally, I've always sort of had a chip on my shoulder. I've been very loud, outgoing, talkative, and whatnot. And whether this is a good or bad thing, it's given me a perspective that some other people won't ever have. And this is where I want to pause for a second. Every single one of us has been given our own experiences, our own perspectives, and things that define us, that make us different from every other person in this room. And I challenge you, the audience, to live your life based off of those things and not any outside influences. Live your life based off of the things you've gone through, not anything else. And this is the beginning of what I call living road. Now, as I mentioned, I've lived in many different places, been to 7 different schools, and what all this did was it forced me to constantly have an open mind. I was never somewhere long enough to be completely inundated by one thought process. I was never at a school long enough to be in the popular kids group and model my life, my behavior off of another person. And so I was forced to have an open mind. And this is one of the things that frustrates me the most, is when people are unable to even begin to think or see life through another person's perspective. This is when I began to do what I call living road. Now, road is a word that's not commonly used. It's a fairly strong word, and many of its definitions have negative connotations. But the one definition I cling to is this. It's a person, organization, or country that does not behave in the usual or acceptable manner. Obviously, this is a noun, and I haven't been using rogue as that, so I should call this rogue living instead of live rogue. Anyways, as I mentioned, I've sort of grown up with a chip on my shoulder, and so this word is something that I can easily associate my life with because it's not something that's commonly used. For me, living rogue or rogue living entails certain things. It entails a certain code, and for every one of us, that code is going to vary slightly. For me, the first part of that is love. Loving everyone, even the most undeserving people, deserve some sort of love. And with that love comes respect. Respect is shown through all different ways, shapes, and forms, big and small, but if we love everyone, we should in turn also respect them. The third part of what I try to live by is making each day the best that it possibly can be. I try to wake up every morning and value the body that I've been given, the talents that I have, because not everyone has this. And at some point in all of our lives, we lose this body, and we lose the ability to make the most out of every day. And the fourth thing that I try to do in my life is have an open mind. The quote, walk a mile in my shoes, see what I see, feel what I feel, and then maybe you'll understand why I do what I do. Until then, don't judge me. This quote epitomizes being a well-respected human being in society. It has love, it has respect, it has having an open mind, and this is something that I try to associate with my life and the way I live. And so this is why I've come to discover why I wake up every day. I wake up to love people, to respect, to make the most out of every day. And when I look around, I don't see a lot of people doing this. And I'll be the first one to raise my hand and say, I fail at this 9 times out of 10. But that's not the point. The point isn't to be perfect. The point isn't to be a robot, because that's not life, and that's not humanity. No, the thing is, we need to value forgiving others and asking for forgiveness far more than being a robot. And so I challenge you as the audience to consider why you wake up every day and why you walk around. Do you live by a certain code? Do you think your decisions through before acting on them? And remember that every single one of you has defining characteristics that are individual to yourself. And so I urge you to live your life based on those things only and live